So, you want to be a survivor. You want to pee in radiators. Fight parachuting Cubans. Maybe you just want to take on zombie hordes with your Colt Python. Well, that's Hollywood. Today I want to give you a sober look at what I would consider a practical battery. A good survival battery in 2023. So saddle up for gunfighter life. A basic battery. That's what we're going to talk about today on Gunfighter Life. Kind of go through the categories and talk about what I believe are some of the best choices in 2023 for said category. I just did one on a budget battery, kind of for the new shooter, maybe somebody that's just getting out of school or is on a budget for whatever reason, transitioning out of the military, just got old enough to be able to buy certain kinds of guns. Did a budget battery. But I thought, why not do a battery, not the complete opposite end, like what's the most money I can spend on a handgun? Like a Cabot 1911 made out of meteorite. That's pretty cool, but probably not helping you out much in a gunfight. But a gunfighting battery, and a good one, where you have some disposable resources that you can put into the investment of firearms for defense, for liberty, for survival, for hunting. So we're going to talk about today that battery. If that interests you, stay tuned to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about gunfighting the right way with Judeo-Christian values and real-world first-hand experience. I'm going to put in a quick version of the bio so you get a little bit of an understanding of that real-world first-hand experience, and then we'll get into the topic. Bio. First and foremost, I am a Christian. That is number one in my life, serving God, following Jesus. Combat veteran, served in the United States Marine Corps and the Army. Also law enforcement veteran, private contractor, state rifle and pistol champion. Professional big game hunter and guide. If you feel called to support, check out Patreon. There should be a link in the show notes. With that, I am your host, Michael Milito, and I am blessed to serve you today. Well, it should be no surprise on this battery. Even if you have the money to go out and buy all these guns at once, I wouldn't. I would get one and get familiar with it and train with it, and then get another. I'm going to start out with the shotgun because I think it's the most versatile. I've said this many times. The vast majority of defensive encounters and hunting is done inside 150 yards. I know that long-range sniping, shooting, and long-range western hunting is all the rage. However, the vast majority of defensive encounters and hunting for whatever size game is generally done inside 150 yards. You can not take my word for that. You can do your own research. I welcome you to. By the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. So go verify that for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Go look into the numbers. I would applaud you in doing that instead of just taking my word for it. But I believe that to be a true statement. My training and experience, and those professionals, gunfighters, and hunters that I've worked with, training and experience. So the shotgun will handle anything inside 150 yards, and it's a devastating weapon, and it's versatile. It's a amazing home defense weapon. It is an amazing putting food on the table firearm. You can hunt mourning dove, you can hunt grouse, you can hunt waterfowl, turkey, white-tailed deer, mule deer, elk, moose, bear for hunting, for defense. It's an amazing truck gun. It's a great law enforcement tool. It's just so versatile because of the ammo that it shoots. So, which one would I recommend in 2023? I'm going to recommend the Benelli M2. It's so versatile, even among shotguns, which are already versatile. I would recommend the short, they make a 21, I believe, inch vent rib version. And that's the one I would pick for all around. Now, contrary to popular belief, you don't get a lot of extra velocity once you get out past 18 inches and the length of the barrel in a shotgun. Again, do your own research on that. The reason a lot of wing shooters shooting stuff flying out of the air, why they often use a longer barrel is that's how you aim the gun, looking down the rib. And when you move your head out of position, which on a shotgun your head is kind of your rear sight, the longer the rib, the longer the sighting plane, the more you can detect an error. Kind of like how you want a longer sight radius on a handgun will give you more precise shooting. So that's great. If you want to just hunt waterfowl, I would recommend maybe a 28 inch or something like that. But if it's an all-around gun for defense, for many different purposes, I'm going to recommend the 21 inch vent rib version of the Benelli M2. It comes good just the way that it is. It'll probably have a plug. I don't remember if it comes in the box or in the gun, but if it's got a plug, take it out and put it in whenever the state dictates that you need to put a hunk of plastic in your magazine so you can only hold 3 shells. But it's a great out-of-the-box option. Now, I know that right now Beretta, and I really like Beretta, they make really good stuff. They certainly do. They're probably one of my favorite gun manufacturers. They're probably my favorite non-American gun manufacturer. And I am Italian, so I do like Benelli. However, if you're talking about an all-around shotgun, just no other caveats. I know the 1301 is the new hotness in the A300, A400s. They're good shotguns, but they're gas. They're a gas system. That kind of old adage, they go to the bathroom where they eat. Dump dirty gas into the operating system, and that's how they work. And they work well. But I don't think they're as forgiving as the inertia system, which is what Benelli uses. I like that system. It stays cleaner. And if you're talking about all around, maybe used for a hard times tool, maybe if things get really tough, I'm going to pick that inertia system. And a lot of people will say go with a pump, and I'm going to give you a pump recommendation. However, I think if it's an all-around shotgun for hunting, for defense, semi-auto has a lot of merit. People will say, oh, pumps don't malfunction. Well, that's not true. All guns can malfunction, even a single shot. They absolutely can malfunction, and in my training and experience, especially under stress, there are 2 things that can malfunction. Either the gun mechanically can malfunction or the user can induce a malfunction. And that can happen quite a bit, and it's pretty well documented in actual shootings with a pump shotgun where people will cause malfunction. They'll get nervous and try and go too fast and run the pump either not completely back or all the way forward, or they'll actually pump the gun when there's shells in it and they're not shooting and dump shells on the ground. Also, the semi-auto, I can fire one-handed if one hand is injured or something like that. A lot easier to use one-handed. So I prefer a semi-auto, and I know I kind of buck the norm there. I kind of go against, modern tactical culture in a lot of ways. A lot of people will espouse the pump. But I've tried to justify the reasons I chose that one. So the Benelli M2 with a 21-inch vent rib barrel, they come with a lot of really good chokes. One of the good things about buying a nicer shotgun like that, they have a really good finish. Benelli's kind of known in the industry for their weather-resistant finishes. It's an inertial system, which, without getting too deep into that, I did a whole episode on gas versus inertia shotguns. But it's a cleaner operating system, and I like that if it's an all-around shotgun. I really do. If you say, oh, I just want a pump. Okay, this is not a new gun, even though 2023 and Remington is making 870s again. I'm not going to recommend them because I was excited when they came back out and I bought one and I regret it. It's not a great shotgun. So look for an older 870 Wingmaster or an older Police Magnum. These have a little bit of upgraded components over the old 870 Expresses. But if you can find an old 870 Wingmaster, and I'm pretty sure they made them in 28-inch barrels, you can get one of those. Also a great, great choice. I don't think you'd ever regret having a Wingmaster. or a police Magnum. They're basically the same, branded different. One was made for the field, but a lot of early adopters in law enforcement used a Wingmaster. Either the Wingmaster or the police Magnum. They make some with rifle sights. You may really look into that. But that would probably be my pump recommendation. An old 870 Wingmaster. Go on Gunbroker, go to a gun show. Even in 2023, there are some good options, but I would recommend an older 870 over a brand new one. For shotgun ammo, I'm going to recommend whatever you can afford. Get started. Get familiar running the gun and have fun going out and shooting it. Get a couple of 100-round packs of birdshot. Probably the most versatile is going to be 7.5. Just low brass. Federal tends to work well in my experience. That can be your range fodder. Keep some of it back. Train with some of it. And then I would get some number 6 shot. Number 6 is a good kind of all-around small game shot. Things bigger than like quail and dove, you might want to step up to number 6 shot. I'd have some 7.5, maybe 8s, some 6s. I would want some number 4 buck. I've talked about before, that's my favorite buckshot. I've hunted all manner of beasts with number 4 buck. I prefer it to the standard double-aught, and I'd have some of that standard double-aught too. If this was going to be my truck gun, I would want some double-aught buck. I would have some of that, and I would have some slugs. Now, as far as brands on double-aught buck and slug, shotguns are very individual. Get the one that patterns well in your shotgun. You absolutely have to pattern a shotgun. Myth about aiming in the general direction is a myth. So pattern, you'd be surprised at how different brands pattern in your shotgun. You should know if it's your shotgun. It's kind of why I said get one and train with it before you move on to the next one. But whatever good double-aught buck, number 4 buck works well in your shotgun, and the slugs that shoot point of aim, point of impact. If you're shooting a more open choke, or you're going to run a cylinder bore, improved cylinder bore, you might look at the Federal Flight Control. Those tend to pattern really well out of a lot of shotguns that have the more open choke. If you decide you want to run modified or something, then don't use those. They're not made for that. They'll probably pattern worse. I said you got to know your shotgun, but you might want to look into those. And again, slugs that shoot point of aim, point of impact, you're probably looking at a 1 ounce slug at around 1,600 feet a second. But different brands can shoot better or worse for you. So that'll get you started on the shotgun. Now for the handgun. And this is harder than I thought. I think I'm really going to recommend the SIG M17 and or 320. I recommend getting a full size. That's one of the cool things about the 320 M17 gun family is they're modular. So you have, once you buy it, you have the trigger fire control unit is what they call it, fire control unit. That's the serialized part of the gun. You can kind of plug and play. But I like the M17. You might decide you want the M18 version of it. It's a good place to start. Comes ready for optics. But if you decided you want a different model of the 320, I wouldn't fault you for that. But I'd say start there. You know, they're not cheap guns, but this is not the budget battery. They're not crazy expensive either, though. You're not dropping $2 or $3 grand. That SIG 320 platform took me a while to warm up to it, but I really think it's a good one. And it's, if I'm giving you a recommendation in 2023 as a good kind of do-it-all fighting handgun and a battery for all manner of different things, I'm really going to recommend that 320 system. And if I'm picking one model, I'm going to pick the M17. It's the one on my hip right now, so kind of weird to recommend a different one. And that should tell you it certainly can be used as a concealed carry gun and EDC gun, which is probably your number one thing you're going to do with your handgun and your battery, your fighting handgun. And it's obviously a good serviceable combat handgun. Our military uses it. I don't think it'd be the one that I would have picked, but the fact that they've used it and haven't vomited it out yet says that it should be holding up okay. And if it's holding up to the use of a Marine infantryman, private, first class, it'll probably hold up for what you're going to do with it. Comes with good night sights. Again, comes optics ready if you want to go that route. And modular, if you want to switch out the grip frame, grip module, you can do that. So that's going to be my number one recommendation. Honorable mention, and it was really hard to decide. My number two recommendation would be Smith & Wesson M&P, full size. Doesn't have the modularity, but it's really good ergonomically. It's a fantastic kind of do-it-all, American-made handgun. Smith & Wesson M&P, full size. And some people, especially the drinkers of the Glock Kool-Aid, will say, why would you not recommend Glock? Well, both the models that I recommend have better ergonomics than the Glock for almost any human being I can envision. Also, the M17 320 has, again, for almost anybody, if they're being objective, a far better trigger. And a good trigger on a handgun is kind of important for shooting well. So I don't, in 2023, unless you're, again, just drinking the Glock Kool-Aid and you just want a Glock because it's Glock and everybody knows Glock, I wouldn't recommend Glock for a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth choice for a go-to handgun in 2023. In 1987, yeah, maybe. But again, today, I think there's a lot of better options, even for the same amount of money. Now let's talk about the fighting rifle. And that's how I'm going to quantify it, fighting rifle. Again, this is a tough decision. And a lot of people would think, well, it's obvious, an AR. I'm not going to go with an AR. But if it appeases you a little bit, I am going to go with one that takes AR mags. You're asking me about a fighting rifle. I'm going to recommend the Galil Ace. There's a lot of different models. I'm going to recommend the one that takes AR mags, and that's a full-size carbine, so it's legal. With the 16-inch barrel, takes AR mags. It's got that, in my opinion, kind of better operating system of the AK-47, and I know that might sound like heresy, but hopefully you come here for advice, and from my experience and training, I like that system better. One of the big downfalls of the AK system for a long time was the inability to mount a good combat effective optic, and that actually can be quite the force multiplier. I still want good usable iron sights as a backup, but I think it is a force multiplier, a good optic, and the Galil Ace certainly lets you do that. It gets that amazing reliability of the AK, better ergonomics. Again, here in America, kind of one of the easy rounds to get and affordably train with, and that is still combat effective. Not my favorite ballistic terminal performance round. I can say that better. By God's grace, I'm a professional podcaster. There are better rounds. There are even better intermediate rounds that I believe are more effective in the realm of terminal performance. However, in America, in 2023, the availability of both the magazines and the ammunition of 5.56mm and 223 makes it the choice that I would go to for this. Now, this isn't a budget battery, so if you decide you wanted to upgrade later to the 308 version in the Galil Ace, they certainly make that. You would already be familiar with it, so there's that. But that would be my number one recommendation. IWI Galil Ace with the Stanag AR-15 M16 pattern magazine for a go-to fighting rifle in 2023. Again, for you don't know what, right? No caveat. It's not like I'm going to shoot competition. If you're like, I want a 3-gun gun, that's going to be different. But this one would do that, which shows you kind of the versatility. It will be a great gun if the come down and you got to pee in your radiator. Some of you will get that reference. It would be a great gun for a lot of different things. Not a great hunting gun. I know you can shoot deer with 5.56 223. It's doable. It's not advisable, in my opinion. But you have a shotgun. And again, for most ranges, that shotgun is going to be a devastating weapon for hunting. And you're going to be able to hunt a lot more other stuff. So that's going to be my recommendation. If you decided you wanted to just right off the bat go with the 308 version, that is also a very good, versatile round and readily available. My number 2 recommendation would probably be the SIG MCX. It lives in this kind of world where it has the AR-15 ergonomics, but not the AR-15 operating system. It uses a piston system, and it's not an AK system, but it's, again, somewhere in this in-between world. But it's a good platform. The SIG MCX, again, with laws the way they are and kind of up in the air, I would go with the 16-inch barrel version in 5.56. That would be my number 2 recommendation in 2023 for a fighting rifle platform. Ammo recommendations, if it's 5.56, I'm going to recommend Federal American Eagle. I like Federal ammo. No affiliation with the show. They don't pay me any money. I pay full price for their stuff, whatever I can get it for. And hopefully that's one of the things you appreciate about the show. Like, none of these companies are bribing me to tell you what's good. It's supported by viewers like you, Patreon. So if you want to support, hopefully you appreciate the honesty and want to step up and support. There should be a link in the show notes. Anyway, ammo. Federal American Eagle, 55 grain. Why it's cheap, it's readily available. It's good ammo, and there's a lot of 55 grain out there. I would look for, you're going to have to do your own testing on this, I would look for a 55 grain defensive load. This is not what I would carry for defense unless it's all that I had. But if you're buying these guns, you should be able to buy some good defensive ammo. By that I mean soft point or hollow point. It's expanding ammunition made for soft targets. 55 grain Federal True Tactical Rifle Urban or Hornady 55 grain bow tip hollow point match. It is expanding hollow point ammunition. I have tested it in real life. It works. There are many other 55 grain loads designed for a soft target. I would look for the one that shoots point of aim, point of impact with that Federal American Eagle. Now, if you decide you want to go Winchester White Box or whatever, that's fine. If you're looking for a recommendation, though, I'd tell you to start with Federal American Eagle. You may find that your gun doesn't like that ammo for whatever reason. I'd say good on you for doing the research. And I realize in saying that I didn't mention a go-to load for the handgun, the SIG M17. Now, I prefer and have for years and standardized on it when I was the commander of a tactical team 147. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. And I think it was the right choice at the time. However, living through the last several years and seeing ammo come and go and go and go and come and go again and start to come back, I would probably go with a more common grain. Not that 147 is uncommon, but 115 and 124 is much more common, since this M17 is kind of developed for NATO, and they generally will run I believe a 124 grain is the NATO loading. I might look there, and since it's fairly easy to do in this, I don't generally recommend plus P ammo, but the NATO load, because Europeans tend to load their ammunition hotter than we do here in the States because of SAMI. I might look at a 124 grain NATO load for training. You can find some pretty affordable, and they have waterproof primers. Again, if this is an all-around battery for survival, defense, all that, that's a good way to go for training. And I would still look for a good expanding hollow point round in a similar grain weight, similar velocity, and make sure, tested when fired by you, that it feeds in your gun, shoots to point of aim, point of impact in your gun. Has a similar recoil impulse. So you might look at like a NATO load and then a Spear Gold Dot 124 grain plus P. That would be a good thing for this. But you may decide you want to go with 115 because it's a little bit cheaper. I'd say good. But anyway, that's a good starting point for that. Next one is probably the easiest one on the list. I recommended it in the budget battery. I'm going to recommend it here in the not budget battery because it's just the best one. The fact that it's not super expensive doesn't mean I'm not going to recommend it. The Ruger 1022. I think any good well-rounded battery should have a 22 rifle in it. And they're really, unless you just want a bolt action because you want a bolt action, which there's nothing wrong with that, there's really no reason to not get Ruger 1022. They absolutely can be tack drivers. They might not be right out of the box, but they're very modular. And again, if you're not really on a budget, you can get a Taxol barrel or, any number of accessories that you want. They have good optics mounting, unlike some other models with the little small 22 rail. You can get standard mounts, and I think they even come with a standard mount for modern optics. Whether you want to mount a red dot or more traditional scope on there, a fixed 4, whatever 2 to 7, whatever you want to go with. If you decide that factory barrel is subpar, not as accurate as you want, you can again get a Taxol or any number of aftermarket barrels, and you should be able to make that thing a tack driver. So the Ruger 10/22, easy. If you want best all-around do-it-all ammo pick for that, the bulk packs of the Federal Champion 38 grain hollow point. It's a good all-around ammo. It's not the best. If for some reason you decided your bug-out option, and a lot of people do this, it wouldn't be mine, but a lot of people say the 22 is the best bug-out option because you can carry lots of ammo. Then you might want to, if this is perhaps going to be used in a defensive situation, move up to, again, if your gun feeds it, you have to test this, but my place to start if you're going that route would be CCI mini mags. Not cheap, but they're cheap still compared to most centerfire ammo. And if you're going to trust your life to it, that's probably not the place to go cheap. But, I mean, what battery would be complete without a good 22 rifle? And I can't think of any one to recommend even close to the Ruger 10/22. They are a fantastic option for training, for getting familiar with keeping sharp on your rifleman skills. And this is not a budget battery, so I'm going to recommend also getting a 22 handgun. I think there's a lot of merit there for training. Even if you can buy a ton of 9mm, you can often do a lot more training with a 22 handgun. And you might want one anyway in your battery. And my number one recommendation for that is also going to be a Ruger. It's going to be the Ruger Mark IV. I would recommend getting the 2245 version because the other one, although a great gun and a great target gun, has a very proprietary grip angle. The 2245 has a 1911 grip angle, like a 1911 45 ACP that it was kind of modeled after. And a lot of handguns share that grip angle. Not a Glock, but many other handguns share that grip angle. So it's going to be a lot more useful and familiar in that respect. Now the last pick is going to be a bolt action full power rifle round, meaning not intermediate. Good hunting, but also general purpose bolt action rifle. I want it to be accurate. I want it to be multi-purpose. Not just what's the best deer rifle. That would be a different pick. Or what's the best defensive rifle if I can't have a semi-automatic for legality reasons or I just don't want one. Not that, but kind of the most versatile, well-rounded. And this pick surprises even me. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The Savage 110 Hog Hunter. Not because you particularly need to hunt hogs or are going to hunt hogs, but I think it's a good all-around platform. If it's like any other Savage I have experience with, it's going to be very accurate, reliable, proven system Savage 110. Unlike most other new bolt-action rifles of today, it comes with iron sights. Savage 110s are common. They've been around, I think, since the 50s. The things to mount optics are going to be very common. Just a traditional 3 to 9 would be fine. I'd probably go with an LPVO. But, if you're talking about you already have a defensive gun and this is mostly for hunting, but if something happened to your defensive gun, you could press it into that role, or you wanted a more kind of precision weapon, I'm going to recommend the Savage 110 Hog Hunter. Again, it comes with good iron sights, which is hard to find nowadays. It's got a threaded barrel. If you want to take advantage of that, put a muzzle brake on it, put a flash hider on it. Looking at the specs, it weighs a little over 7 pounds, which is a good weight. A lot of people go way too heavy on this, and then they don't want to carry it, or they carry it on a sling. They're not ready when the opportunity presents itself. I think 7 pounds is a good workable weight. I think it's a good general purpose bolt action rifle. I would get it in 308. There's really no debate there for this option. And these aren't the cheapest bolt action rifle you can get. However, they're not crazy expensive either. They're very affordable as far as a good, accurate bolt action rifle goes. So I think it's going to round out the battery in 2023 for a good all-around battery. You might decide you want some specialty weapons. You might decide you're really big into prairie dog hunting out west, in which case you're probably going to want a particular rifle for that. So you could certainly hunt them with a Ruger 1022, I've done that. Or your fighting rifle, I've certainly done that. But this battery will cover the vast majority and do a lot of different things, from defense to survival. I think you should have a good, well-rounded approach when it comes to firearms, for putting food on the table and for defense. And I think this battery is a pretty good one. You may decide you want something else for whatever reason. You may decide you already have better stuff than this in all these categories. But if you're looking for recommendations in 2023, I did the budget battery and I thought, well, not everybody's on a budget, or at least a really tight budget. So maybe I should just pick a good all-around battery. So I did. Hopefully you enjoy it. Tactical tip of the day: clear magazines. I guess clear is not the right term. Translucent magazines. Some of the guns I mentioned: the SIG M17 or 320, the AR-15 pattern. There are translucent magazines made for those. ETS for the handgun. Lancer is at least one company I know that makes them for the AR. Why might you want these? Well, part of being a good gunfighter is training, and part of that training should be, I think, dry fire. Something that I do is, for my M17, I have a clear mag. That clear mag is loaded with dummy rounds. That's what it's for. Now, if things got really bad and I was really low on magazines, absolutely I could load live ammunition in here. Or if I wanted just a beater mag for a training class, save my good mags that I know are reliable already because I've tested them, I could load it with live rounds. But mostly it stays loaded with snap caps, dummy rounds. Do the same thing with your AR. That way you can look at a glance and realize it's that magazine for training. Just an added layer of safety. You absolutely don't need to do that. You can just load snap caps or no rounds at all in most modern guns and dry fire. But it's something I like to do, and it's a good tactical tip. That clear magazine, I can easily look and say, oh, those rounds are completely orange or red. They're clearly training rounds when I go to do my dry firing. You may decide it's worth the extra $30 or whatever it is investment in getting a clear magazine or two for your go-to training platforms. And again, if need be, you can press them into service to hold live rounds. And I think that is going to lead us to the tactical verse of the day. We talked about survival, defense, gunfights, even hunting. All of those can put you in some pretty scary situations. You ever been lost in the woods at night in the wilderness? Let alone taking incoming rounds. I think today's verse is pretty fitting with that. In a day when I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. In God, I keep praising His word. In God, I trust. I will not fear. What can mere flesh do to me? We still, thankfully, print in God we trust on our money. Do you? Do you trust in God, the one and only maker and sustainer of the universe? Whatever happens, whether the economy is boom or bust, whether you're fighting the urge to eat a bag of Oreos or fighting Panamanian paratroopers falling out of the sky, in any and all circumstances, put your trust in God. I'm going to read that verse again. In a day when I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. In God, I keep praising His word. In God I trust. I will not fear. What can man do to me? You'll find that in Psalm 56. And if you like that, I'm going to plug in Psalm 91 as well. Psalm 91, a psalm of protection and blessing. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I will trust. Surely you shall deliver me from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. You shall cover me with your feathers, and under your wings shall I take refuge. Your truth shall be my shield and buckler. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. Only with my eyes shall I look and see the reward of the wicked, because I have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, my dwelling place. No evil shall befall me, nor shall any plague come near my dwelling. For you shall give your angels charge over me, to keep me in all my ways. In their hands they shall bear me up, lest I dash my foot against a stone. I shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent I shall trample under foot. Because I set my love upon you, therefore you deliver me. You set me on high, because I have known your name. I call upon you, and you answer me. You be with me in trouble. You deliver me and honor me. With long life, you satisfy me and show me your salvation. Thank you for listening through all that. I am humbled and blessed that I get to share God's Word. But please don't let that be the only Bible you hear today or read today. With that, thanks for listening and have a blessed day.